Me, a bro.
Yep.
He, a dude.
That's good stuff. All right. Let's try it. Okay. Welcome to the We Will Journey podcast. We're talking about faith and life as it happens, and not the glossy exterior we wish it was.
Oh.
What, man? What did I do wrong?
I think you said it's because all the things I was thinking about before. But we can edit that. You got that part good.
Oh.
You got it good. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, just...
Now it's your turn.
Good?
Yeah.
Wait. We're going to get under the surface. I should have said all those things before. We should have waited down and dirty until after we read this part.
Okay.
Okay. Wait. We get under the surface and explore the down and dirty. Okay. Maybe we should. It doesn't have to be word for word, right?
No. I mean, I gave an interpretation.
Okay. All right. We get under the surface and explore the down and dirty of life as it pertains to our beliefs, our relationships, politics, and absolutely everything else.
Oh, there we go. That was good. All right.
When I'm dead, laying in my coffin, all my friends all gather round. They can say I'm just sleeping good alone, the sweet peace I have found.
3, 2, 1.
Okay. Good morning, afternoon, Seth, my man. How's it going?
I always let you say it first, because then you always say good morning. I mean afternoon every time. So
I think the last two times we've recorded, I've said good afternoon.
Good morning, Tyler.
Yeah. So, anyways, I have been a little better, but it definitely feels like morning here. So it must be morning somewhere else in the world too.
Well, that's who's the 5 o'clock somewhere? Who is that? Is that George Strait? No.
Well, no. Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, did it originally, but
okay.
A lot of people have re-recorded it, including Jack Johnson. I think re-recorded it with Jimmy Buffett, and then there's a country artist too that did it. I can't remember who that is off the top of my head. So.
Well, I was close, right?
Yeah, you were very close. Yeah. George Strait. It was George Strait. I mean, George sings about a lot of drinking songs and, so.
Some beach.
That's also not him either.
I know it's not. I don't actually, George Strait, I don't know if I could think of a single.
He has a song that, I always kind of just, I don't want to say I got a kick out of it, but he had one that was, I'm drinking champagne, feeling no pain till early morning. Dining and dancing with any pretty girl I can find or something like that. So, yeah. It was quite a song. It was, I used to have a lot of, I probably still have them somewhere, quite a few George Strait albums in high school. So, I had a lot of stuff, man. I went through a lot of phases. I had a country phase. I had a rap phase. Like classic rock, when classic rock was classic rock. So yeah, I've got all kinds of stuff, man.
That's the best thing about that, though, is having all those phases. Is now you have a plethora of songs and artists to choose from that you know.
Oh, yeah.
And you go to. That's what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you're stuck in one phase, then eventually, people, the world passes you by, right? And you're like, oh, I missed out on all these. It's like country. It took me a while to get into country, and now I listen to country. And it's like catching up in some ways. That's been a few years now, but kind of catching up in decades of country. You know what I mean?
I was telling someone yesterday that I didn't grow up like in a movie household, right? We didn't watch a ton of TV and like Star Wars. That was something that we didn't get into at all. And so there were all these references to Star Wars and The Godfather and all this stuff. So in my early 20s, I'm like, I don't know any of this stuff. Like, I don't get any of these references, nothing. So I basically spent one weekend watching Star Wars movies and another weekend watching The Godfather, just so I could get like all the cultural references.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then sometimes you're like, wow, I'm really glad I did that. That was like a really cool experience. Then other times you're like, that's all I was missing out on.
There were some those, I don't know when they were made, maybe the 90s or something, those Star Wars movies that were awful.
You mean the not the original ones?
No, not the original.
Late 90s,
The
early
weird-
2000s, yeah.
The really weird, dumb ones. And that was definitely like a spot where I'm like, I don't know if I'm spending my time in the best possible way right now.
The best Star Wars movies, they contain Harrison Ford. When Harrison Ford is a part of Star Wars, then it's a good movie in my book.
Yeah. Well, Seth, I just got a little update on my phone as I was glancing at email. If you remember what that is, email. And and a couple things are still kind of bouncing around here, but one of them's Ukraine, and we haven't talked about Ukraine for a while. And you're a little closer to the action. I don't know if you have been keeping up on it, but they said Russia is kind of making progress in that. For right now, the name of that town, that region, the Don. What's that region called?
I'm not for sure.
Oh boy, Seth.
You came out strong.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyways, you'll work on that, Seth, but they're making progress in that region and also suffering heavy losses, and but it just seems like this thing is going to drag on for quite some time. It doesn't seem like this is going to just go away the way I think we kind of all keep hoping it would go away. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to mention Ukraine this morning, and encourage people to keep thinking about Ukraine, keep praying for Ukraine. There's definitely days that I don't have to think about it anymore. I'm not super into the news and media that I'll necessarily catch all of that stuff, but anyways, and then there's the thing that we talked about last week, which was the shooting in Texas, and just shootings and gun control and gun culture in general. But there's still obviously going to be just a ton of fallout from how that was handled and legislation and all the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as far as the Ukraine thing goes, and the refugees that continue to trickle in around the world, we're hopeful and have been in contact with a number of different organizations about potentially getting some refugee youth to come to our camp this summer.
Okay.
Because that's one of the things, obviously, that happens is you have all these young people arriving in a country and they don't really know many people or have a lot to do. And so we had some money given that we'd be able to sponsor like 10 kids.
Oh, wow.
And so we're still waiting to see exactly if that happens. We're in touch with a few different people, organizations about that. There's also the potential, though, even if anyone listening would like to sponsor a kid, and it comes to that point where we get like a bunch more than that. I think we have space for more than 10 still.
What would it cost to sponsor a kid?
Dollars.
Go euros.
Actually,
Go euros
well,
right now.
About $300
About $300
for a week. Yeah, for one.
1 week of English camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're kind of, I don't know what the words are. There's like, I'm one of those people who's like, hey, let's do what we can, and then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And so we're gonna see what ends up happening, and just trusting God with that, because, yeah, that's one of those things. I mean, you can't really like totally prepare for it.
No. When does camp start again? When are you out? I was going to ask you that today. When are you done being at home for a while?
July 11th is the first day that campers arrive. Let me think if that's correct. 11th through 16th or 10th. Man,
neighborhood.
Yeah, we're gonna start training before that, around the 6th.
Right. Okay.
We have people arriving
Cool.
pretty soon. It's June.
About a month away.
So
About a month away.
Yeah, man. So we still got a spot for you. I know you're still getting your plane tickets together, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Just get, oh man, that's gonna be loud. Just get Tom Cruise to fly you over, man, on his jet.
Oh, that'd be so nice, Tom. If you're listening, which I'm sure he is, yeah.
Or Harrison Ford. He's the one that's closer. He goes to Wichita all the time, what I hear, and he flies. Or it used to fly.
Nice.
Did you know he was like a Wichita person?
I had no clue that he was into Wichita.
Just some friends of mine, they just had their picture taken with him in Wichita.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
At a
Wichita is a big plane town, though, so if you're into planes, you're probably into Wichita.
They also have the Keeper of the Planes.
Yeah, they kind of go hand in hand.
Double meaning, planes. This is the planes on the planes.
Yeah. Hey, I did want to mention, I think I mentioned in a really non-descriptive way the other day that we had a Facebook page now. And they're doing something different on Facebook with podcasts, I guess.
Okay.
And I'm not really for sure. It takes place here in June. I'm going to talk to somebody about that this week.
The metaverse?
But, yeah. But anyways, we have a podcast. You can find us at We Will Journey Podcast on Facebook. So I would like to start utilizing that a little more, because neither one of us are Twitter people. We're like not into it at all. We're not into Twitter. I'm not into really anything, actually. But I do utilize Facebook for my other work that I do. And so it seems easier for me to get into Facebook a little bit.
Yeah, there's different times in my life where I've aspired to be more active on platforms. When I was in high school, I was definitely much more active. That was on a very limited amount of platforms and opportunities back then. But yeah, Facebook is cool though, because it's it's like the connection point I have to so many different people still. It's like the only, you know what I mean? Like there's so many people I only am still connected to that person because of Facebook. So I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, me too.
I had a thought, or not a thought, but I had something I was going to bring up. If you don't have, I don't know what's on your agenda, on your mind.
Go for it. What do you want to talk about?
20 minutes. I was listening to a podcast on the way here. I was sweating it trying to get back home, you know, on the bicycle. And sorry, I just realized I was sweating it trying to get home in my Camaro and on my bicycle. And I was listening to this podcast. It's like this leadership podcast I listen to every once in a while. It's Carey Nieuwhof. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He interviews a lot of Christian leaders, but also leaders from different organizations and CEOs and people that run sports teams and stuff. And he was interviewing the Chick-fil-A. He's not the CEO, but the guy who runs Chick-fil-A. Not the guy who founded it, but anyways, they were talking about leadership, Chick-fil-A's specific style and unique things that they do with how they run it and stuff. And then one of the things they were talking about, which really challenged me and made me reconsider, and it's something I know you sort of hit on over the last few months a bit in your own personal life, is the idea that like to be more successful in leadership and in just in life is to take time to actually like reflect and work through the stuff that's going on. So not just constantly running, because they were saying like a misconception about like people who are in leadership and CEOs, those kind of types, and it still can be the conception, or it still can be true, but is that they're moving 24/7. You know, it's like this constant, you know, like you're always moving, you're always doing stuff, you're always going to the next conference and meeting and whatever. But they said like the average CEO, there was these statistics that came out. It said like 28% of their time they're alone. 28% of the time that a CEO has is by themselves. And that's because they're spending so much time contemplating, figuring out things, and like planning, getting ready, preparing,
taking a nap.
And he was saying, yeah, get enough sleep. And so he was saying like things that he's changed, you know, because I wish I knew his exact title. I could probably find it real quick, but he was saying like as he's gotten older and as he's been doing this more and more, Mark Miller, he's like started to sleep more. He started to condense a lot of the things he used to do and realize like he's so much more effective the more downtime he has.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about my own life, because then they were talking about like if you're going to give advice to if you're giving advice to like a big time, you know, a leader or a CEO, somebody like that, they would say, okay, how much time are you taking by yourself? Double that, basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. I find I'm somebody who is kind of all about that action. I like to be doing something, and even at times when I'm alone, kind of like relaxing or whatever, oftentimes I'm going to be like watching a sporting event or watching a series or doing something with my hands, building something or working on something or cleaning or whatever. It's like even the times where I'm like alone, I'm kind of still moving and doing something, you know what I mean? Like I'm always like doing something in the moment. And I think it would do me really it'd be really good for me to take that advice. And it's something I know and I kind of have struggled with for a lot of years, is kind of just being that quiet and contemplating things, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know what that looks like in your life. If you feel like you have a good kind of grasp on that,
I got it all figured out.
Or if
I got
you
it all
feel
figured
like,
out.
or if you feel like that's like noticeably something that hinders you in your life and job, is it not, the lack of that kind of like taking that time.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that that was your thing that you wanted to talk about today, because the thing I was going to talk about, the thing I wanted to bring up is our little group, basically, that meets once a week. We actually skipped last night because Avery had a birthday. He's 13. But
Happy birthday.
Our reflective prayer group that has been meeting once a week.
Burger, you said?
Reflective prayer group. So
I heard burger. I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out. I think it was
our burger prayer group. Yeah.
Well, I thought you do. It's like, you would do burgers every week or something.
But yeah, so one of the takeaways from my trip to Montana, my contemplative prayer retreat, was to start up a prayer group here, and it's not intercessory prayer. It's not.
Which intercessory is where you're praying on behalf of somebody or somebody else, something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. It's contemplative. It's reflective. However you want to say that. We instead of us speaking a lot, we take in, right? Yeah. And so we have 3 different things that we listen to. One of them is a little bit liturgical in nature, and so it's kind of like liturgy and then pauses, like quiet, gives us time to like take in what we just heard, and then they have more liturgy, more quiet time. So that's the first exercise we do for about 10 minutes. And then we do another exercise, which it's not very liturgical, but it throws out some scripture, some things to really reflect on, to meditate on. That's by John Eldridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go from that into centering prayer. And centering prayer is just kind of up to our group how long we want to do that. A lot of times we do 10 minutes. But that's because a lot of people are pretty new to it. And so we do kind of like three phase. Each one has a little more quiet time and a little more pause to it. And so we conclude with centering prayer. And the way I think about centering prayer, I think about it in a way that is very similar to fasting. Mm-hmm. Have you ever done much fasting?
Yes, I haven't. So we had talked about this back at the Lent stuff, but I've done more fasting of things or devices in my life more than food. Mm-hmm. But there's times where I've done food fast.
Yeah. So one of my friends, Kevin, talked about fasting in this way, and that when you fast, you deprive your body of something that it naturally wants, right? So we have cravings for food, And that's just a natural part of being a human. And so when you tell your body, no, we're not going to have food right now, we're going to wait. That starts to train your body to go without something it naturally desires. Well, we have all kinds of desires that are, sometimes they're natural, sometimes they're not natural because we've introduced them into our lives, but we have all kinds of desires, right? And addictions, right? Things that we crave and desire that may be harmful to us. We have a hard time saying no to those things many times, right? That's just a natural part of our human existence, our experience. So when we fast, we actually train our body to go without something that we naturally need and want. And so then we can take that knowledge, basically, and we can apply it to other areas of our life through the practice of fasting. Obviously, there's spiritual implications with fasting as well. We omit one thing and we try to introduce God into that space, right? So we omit food and we try to focus on God in that time as well. But fasting has just a lot of practical implications. I actually saw a video recently. It looked like possibly a researcher who studied fasting that was talking about just like when we lift weights to build muscle, right? We stress our muscles and they even tear, so your muscles actually tear and they have to heal. Well, that tearing and healing process and that stressing builds muscle. He was talking about the fact that fasting kind of does that same thing, and actually they're linking it to longevity.
Wow.
So, yeah. But I don't know. I haven't listened to a lot of that, so I don't want to talk about it too much. But that is something, it's just interesting, when you kind of go down a path, right? Okay, so that's fasting. So centering prayer is very similar to fasting, where fasting applies to our physical body. Centering prayer applies to our physical mind or our brain.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing we're all kind of similar in the fact that we have probably thousands of thoughts that just kind of continually bombard us through the day, right? We just like think. I may be thinking about one thing and I'm thinking about 10 other things like on the side. I've got like a side hustle of 10 other thoughts going at the same time. I can literally read a book. I can actually read the words to the book and think about something completely different as I'm reading the book, right?
Yeah.
And it's super annoying sometimes, right? You're like, I really want to focus on this thing, but I just keep my brain, it's reading these words, but it's going somewhere else. Well, centering prayer makes kind of like, okay, so let's say with fasting, I make God the priority of fasting. Well, in thinking, I make God the priority in thinking. If that makes any sense. So
thinking.
Yeah. So in thinking, so what I do is we pick a sacred word. Okay, some sacred word. So a lot of times I'll just say Yeshua, because in American culture we use the name Jesus so many times, right? Like how many references to Jesus? We can think of Will Ferrell saying "Baby Jesus" and Talladega Nights, and so like Jesus has lost its sacredness sometimes in our culture, and so I'll go back to like Yeshua, or I have a native people or indigenous group Bible, and they call Jesus Creator Sets Free. So sometimes I'll think of something like that, or maybe I'll just use a short Bible verse or something. Whatever. It's short. Makes me think of God or Jesus. And so in centering prayer, what I do is I try to quiet my mind. So we found that using those two other previous things helps us kind of start the process of quieting our mind, focusing on Jesus. And then we'll go to just total silence for a period of time, whatever that is. And then we use that word or that phrase to focus our mind. So every time that random thought starts bouncing around in my brain, I say something like Yeshua, right? Or Creator sets free. And I just kind of keep repeating that. So then I go back to quiet. My mind, that thought leaves. And then another thought comes, and then I just say it again, Creator sets free, And then I just keep doing that for that period of time. And it helps my mind focus on, for one, it helps my mind focus just on one single thing, and that thing just happens to be my relationship with Jesus. And so one chaplain, actually, that did 20 minutes of centering prayer every day at a hospital. They decided to, the neurologists at the hospital wanted to study his brain. And
Wow.
they found that 20 minutes of centering prayer for his brain was equivalent to a 2-hour nap.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
That's cool. I mean,
so not as. Go ahead.
yeah, it's cool because I think we can, and I can, as a Christian, often be skeptical of some of the things that, like, what is it called? This idea of meditation is very, very popular right now, right? Like,
Right.
everywhere, sports stars, celebrities, everybody's, has an app they're promoting or whatever. But it kind of goes like what you're saying is just the idea of being quiet. And for us as Christians, it gives us the extra boost and bonus to connect to Christ.
Yeah.
But just the simple fact, quieting ourselves and taking a break from all the stuff. I mean, the amount of input and the amount of things going through our minds, you probably can't even compare to 100, 500, 1,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much stuff. It's like back then, I'm sure they would have been like, what? You need like some kind of thing to tell you to be quiet or whatever? Like,
Yeah.
I spend 3/4 of my day, outside
Thinking. Yeah.
whatever. So it's like we're trying to get back a little bit to like what used to probably be just a normal practice in everyone's life without them needing it to be, unless you're Jesus who's being followed around by thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to get away. So anyways, I like that you're doing that, and I think it's a helpful encouragement, and you sharing your guys' study. Hopefully we can help other people, and that I can get on a more consistent path of doing that as well. Because I know someone who does a half an hour nap every day, and that resets him, gives him the energy. But it's cool, like what you're saying is like you could do a half an hour nap, or you could do like a half an hour or 20-minute like just quiet before God, and that might even be twice or 4 times as useful and powerful as that nap would be.
Mm-hmm. Or do both. Do a half-hour nap and 20 minutes of centering prayer. Yeah.
You just have to get up at 4:30 in the morning.
That's only an hour.
Which my dad does. So he's got something figured out. Well,
you don't want to get up at 4:30 to take a nap at 4:30.
No, but I'd say you got to like start everything. It's like you got to start everything earlier. That's cool. Man.
I know what you're saying. I know you got a jet.
I got a jet.
All right.
You got a jet on over to Austria with Tom Cruise here pretty soon.
I know. That's coming up.
All
right. So July 6th-ish, we'll be done recording for a while.
Most likely, unless we jump in on something. I don't know what it's going to be like. Every year's different. Once camp starts, especially, it's going to be crazy. But during training, the first week, until the 11th, it might be a little different this year.
Okay.
We're doing things a bit different. Anyways, it's good to see you,
brother. Good seeing you.
I got to say something because I meant to tell you right away and I forgot. I saw a Popeye on the way here. I was biking. I went by it was an amazing sight. I went by a construction site and there's this big dude, nothing like me. He had muscles on top of his muscles and a tank top, huge tattoo on his arm, and he was holding a pipe. I'm not even joking. He was at a construction site, just standing there, the sun beating off of his giant sweaty muscles, and he had a pipe. And I was like, women get pregnant just by biking by and looking at this man. I don't. Okay, you should cut that part out. But anyway,
no, I'm keeping it. And with that, blessings to everybody listening. It was good.
All right, love you too.
Talking to you, Seth. All right, bye.
See ya, man.